This morning, I finished my 80th lesson on italki. I went from somebody that was terrified to speak in my target language and couldn't even put together a sentence. I didn't even want to acknowledge that I was learning Spanish or anything at all, to somebody now that speaks to my boyfriend in Spanish, even though I know he doesn't understand me. So I wanted to share with you guys all of the things that I've learned along the way on how to get the most out of every lesson and the entire lesson experience so that you could get the most bang for your buck. So if you're somebody that is curious about lessons, is still terrified about taking lessons and spending money on the internet, or you've taken a few lessons but want to make sure that you're getting the absolute most out of the experience, this video is going to be for you. I know it can be really scary to start something new, to dive into lessons when you're terrified to say anything in your target language, but that's what learning a language is. It's about facing your fears, learning something new, and getting better on the other side of it. So here is everything that I've learned over the course of almost a year of 80 lessons of italki and how to get the most out of every single one. So I personally love the platform italki, which is what I use for lessons, but I think a lot of these tips can be universally applied across any other tutoring service online, or if you're lucky enough, in person. So for those of you that want to squeeze every single cent that you possibly can, every single morsel of goodness out of these lessons that you possibly can, this tip is for you. So for me, it takes about 20 minutes to kind of get in the swing of Spanish, in the swing of Tagalog while I'm in my lessons. I don't want to pay for that time. I want to use that time to practice these things. So what I do is 20 minutes before, maybe 30 minutes, an hour before, depending on how I'm feeling, I do some things in Spanish or Tagalog as much as I can. This is usually just for Spanish because I can do more things in Spanish, but I'll go and I'll do really active review things. So instead of just watching a, YouTube video on something in Spanish, I'll actually go and do babble where I'm having to say it back, where I am listening, where I am writing, where I am reading, doing all four of these things right before my lesson so that I already get in kind of the swing of Spanish before I actually start to use Spanish and be learning new things. You can just watch a YouTube video 10 minutes before or so to get you in the swing of listening, but what I found is for some reason, whenever I listen to native speakers speak in Spanish, for some reason, my brain is like, I can do that too. And then when I open my mouth and that doesn't happen, I get a little frustrated. So what worked for me is saying things back and doing really active review before my lesson so that I don't spend the first 10 or 20 minutes kind of fumbling around. If for you, this is 10 minutes before, if for you, you don't really need this, great, that's awesome. It's definitely an experimentation on how to get the most out of it for you. So for me, what works is doing it 20 minutes before, 30 minutes sometimes, and I found that's made a huge difference in how I'm able to just slip right into Spanish conversation or right into learning the material. The next tip is to treat these lessons as your playground. This isn't a test. This isn't anything scary. This is your opportunity to try out the new phrases that you're hearing on YouTube or in shows and making sure that you're using them in context. I kept hearing this phrase, ¿Qué onda?, in a show that I was watching in Spanish, and then when I looked it up, it was like, what's the vibe? Like, what's happening? And I thought you could just take onda and use it as like the vibe of anything. And I asked my tutor and she was like, oh, no, like that's la vibra. So trying out that word in a different context that, might be normal in English, I realized didn't work, but then I also got this brand new word that I got to use. So then I learned more words that were more natural in each context that you would actually use them in real life in Spanish. And so if I had just hung back and, not tried it and not said anything, I still would have been saying onda for kind of the vibe of the room or like the vibe of the party. And it would have gotten a little weird looks because it's not really that interchangeable in Spanish. And so don't be afraid to try out new things. Like that's what your tutors are there for, is to help you and guide you along the way. Along the same lines of using lessons as your kind of personal test ground for trying out these new fun things that you're learning is to ask for homework. I know it goes against everything you ever felt probably in high school, but asking for homework is such a great way to get real-time feedback from these people that are either native speakers or really, really good at teaching you the language. So definitely use it. If you feel like, I don't really want to be asking for homework from my tutors, what you can also do is make your own homework. What I do for my conversational lessons is after I find out the topic, after we've gone through an hour of talking about whatever we're talking about, I'll go and I'll say, okay, what are all of the words that I would need to be able to have a really good in-depth conversation about this if we do it again? So for example, for the environment, I learned a lot of new really fun words during that lesson, but there were some that I kind of guessed and I wasn't 100% sure of. It ended up working out, but it didn't really implant in my brain very well. Things like garbage dump or landfill. We kind of figured out the word that I was trying to go for, before, but I really wanted to make sure. So I went and I watched a ton of videos on recycling. I wrote an essay about recycling and the environment using all of these words that I had just learned, plus the ones that I had been searching for and frankly kind of avoiding saying because I didn't know what they were. So I kind of gave myself my own homework in that way, where this is what she was presenting to me. Like, this is a really important conversation that I do want to know how to describe and have a conversation about, and then making it my own homework that it's fun for me, right? Like, I found a new YouTuber off of this that went to a recycling plant in Mexico and rode around in the forklift and stuff. Like, that was really fun to see. And so you can dive deep on all of these homework things and all of these other continuing education opportunities to really dive into what you're learning. So yes, you can either ask for homework from your tutor and have it be corrected the next time, or you can make your own, which might be a little bit more fun either way, depending on your preference. So in the same respect of using these as kind of your playground, these are also your opportunity to recognize what you're not so great at right now, but you will be great at in the future. And I know it kind of sucks to say, I'm not so great at listening right now. But after each lesson, I take maybe 10 seconds to just ask myself, what was the hardest part about that lesson? For a couple months, it was listening. I couldn't understand anything that they were saying. I had to very weirdly kind of follow along in the lesson or kind of assume what I was hearing. And I realized, okay, you need to listen more. And so I brought up all of these documentaries and I listened to a ton of YouTubers in Spanish and I watched a ton of shows, and now listening is one of the easiest things for me in Spanish. But if I hadn't have taken that time to say, man, this is really hard for me right now, then I never would have known that I needed to work on it. So just like you're trying out these new phrases and you're trying to use this as a playground in your lessons, also recognize what you're not so great at right now, because you will be great at it in the future, but you just have to notice it first. In that same respect, I also realized during my lessons that I wasn't talking as much as I wanted to. I wanted just a full conversation. I wanted the natural flow and how it actually felt to speak in Spanish. And so I added on another conversational lesson that week. And then in my lesson, I was able to actually focus on learning different grammatical constructs, learning how to do these things a little bit more naturally. And then in my conversation lesson, I wasn't so worried about this huge grammatical reasoning behind certain phrases. And I was just focused on how to make things sound more natural and just have a conversation back and forth. And now that I have those two, my skills are building at the same time because I am able to so much better focus on conversation in one and so much better focus on learning new grammatical concepts and new kind of phrases to say things, and I don't have to split my attention in between either one, worrying about, I'm not getting enough of what I wanted over here or what I wanted over here. I found the perfect balance for me. So find the perfect balance for you and then experiment with it a little bit. Next up, find your pace. Not my pace, not some polyglot on the internet's pace. Your pace. Some people work best with lessons once a month, others 3 times a week, some I've heard every day. The variation is so huge that you shouldn't compare yourself to anyone else. Experiment with how many times a week, how many times a month works well for you. How often do you like to review alone? How often do you like to review with somebody else there with you? It's totally up to you. And the best way to get the most out of your lessons is to find what works best for you. How many lessons a week do make you feel like you're progressing? How many lessons a week make you feel like you're falling a little bit too behind? It is completely and totally up to you. Also, figure out what kind of lessons you enjoy taking. If you're at the conversational point in learning a language, maybe you want to do 3 times of conversational lessons a week and 1 real lesson once a month. Or maybe you just want to have a conversational lesson once a month, once every 2 months. It is completely up to you. So don't compare yourself to anyone else. You are the driver in figuring out how many lessons a week makes you feel like you're progressing and makes you happy and doesn't overwhelm you with all of the other things that you have to balance in your life. If somebody takes lessons every single day and that doesn't fit into your lifestyle, don't make it. It's totally fine. I know people that are only taking lessons 1 time a month, and that's all that they need. If you're someone that loves to review on your own and learn on your own, but needs a check-in maybe once a month, do that. If you're somebody that loves to talk, take 5 conversational lessons every day, every week. It doesn't matter. Don't compare yourself to how often other people are taking lessons. Find the pace that works for you. One of the things that I took for granted when I first started learning lessons was, for some reason, I thought that one lesson was going to take me from barely being able to put together a sentence to making me fluent. And that is just not how they work. They are a long-term investment over time. And for you, that could mean 2 times a week or 1 time a month. But you need to consistently be doing these things to see any progress. There's definitely a miracle in there, right? Like when I first started, I could not put together a sentence in anything. But now I'm having an entire hour-long conversation about how we're harming the environment in Spanish. And so although it doesn't necessarily feel like a miracle every single time that I have a lesson, over time, I'm like, wow, I have progressed so far in all of these lessons and all of these concepts and all of these things. And so I think when you come into lessons thinking that one is going to be, the secret to success, it's really not the case. And that can make you more frustrated and more nervous because you're putting so much pressure on yourself to get so good in just 1 hour. Think about it like if you're studying an hour on your own, you'll unlock a few secrets, right? You'll get a little bit farther, but you're not expecting yourself to get these huge grand epiphanies in an hour, and lessons aren't going to do that either. But the more you invest and the more you take the time to do these and find out kind of your rhythm and what makes it tick for you and what makes it work, the farther you're going to get along. And when you put so much pressure on yourself to get better in 1 hour, you're going to be more nervous, you're not going to learn as much, and it's not going to be as fun for you. So enjoy the ride, enjoy taking lessons, enjoy having it be your playground and experimenting with it, and don't put so much pressure on that one lesson making you fluent in Chinese or Russian or French. It's an investment over time. And for me, italki is so affordable that I can invest over time and not worry too much about, it draining my wallet. But definitely see what's best for you and what your budget can handle and what you're looking to get out of these lessons. So right now, italki actually has something that coincides with the Summer Olympics, which is super fun, called the Language Challenge, where you just set a goal with yourself. You're not competing against anyone else unless you want to, but people are crazy on the internet. So it's a language challenge where you set, in the next 2 months, I want to take 10 classes, 16 classes, 24 classes, however many it is. And then at every interval, you get some sort of prize. So I'll put more information in the description box below, but I think this is a really great opportunity to try out taking lessons and just compete against yourself. Find your own pace with what works well for you. If you want to push yourself a little bit this summer because it coincides with the Summer Olympics, I think that's a super awesome way to do it. If you know that once a month works for you, set a goal of 4 lessons over the next 4 months. But don't worry too much about how many other classes and how many other lessons other people are taking. This is about you and your language learning journey. So continue to keep it about you. Continue to fall in love with it. Continue to have fun with it. Do not worry so much about what other people are doing. All right, the next tip, you have to review. There is no magical cure for getting all of this information into your head. And even though these tutors are guiding you through the material, you still need to bring a lot of your own personal responsibility and your own push and your own motivation to your learning. So think of tutors as a tool, a really great tool, but you should still be reviewing and still be actively learning on your own. And that is the best way to learn all of this material. So review in between each lesson and really dive into the material from a motivation inside of you rather than from somebody else or from this tutor. So on the italki platform, there are so many tutors, especially for those like German, French, Chinese, Spanish, that sometimes it gets a little overwhelming to pick the right one. But here's the thing, there is no right one. They're all absolutely amazing. But what you can do to kind of make it a better fit for yourself is realize you're going to be spending a lot of time with this person. So instead of looking straight at all of the degrees they have and, they speak 8,000 other languages, look to see the videos that you vibe with. Look to see what ones you kind of click with. There are some people that I've seen that speak Spanish that are very reserved and calm, and that will work for a lot of nervous learners. But for me, I need somebody that is there. I need somebody that is very high energy and will push me along to learn more. For some people, that might be too overwhelming though. And so there is a teacher for everyone. But I definitely recommend, instead of looking straight to they speak 18,000 other languages, don't worry about that. Go with what vibes for you. And if you try out a tutor and it's not really what you're looking for, that's fine. There are a ton of other ones that you could be trying out, investigating. So I have been really lucky to find the ones that I have vibed with just because I watched their video and I was like, yep, I could talk to them for an hour, right? And that's going to change across every single person. The person that works well for me might make other people incredibly anxious because they're just pushing them along too much. And for the people that are looking for calm tutors, I do not want a calm tutor. So the beauty of italki is that you can find something for everyone, for every personality, for every goal that you're looking for. You can also search by certain tests you're trying to pass. And so if you have a certain objective in mind, you can find tutors for that as well. So again, there is something for everyone there, but definitely pay attention to the people you gravitate towards and that you feel like you could be friends with. And those are the people you should probably be trying to get lessons from, because you are going to be hanging out with them for a while. The other thing that is going to help you a ton in your review is to ask your tutors to write words down and write phrases down. Most of my tutors have always been absolutely amazing at this, but sometimes people forget, right? Or they kind of take it for granted that this might be a really, really easy phrase, but you're like, ooh, I haven't heard that before. Like, I want to know that. There's absolutely no shame in saying, can you repeat that? Can you write it down? I will say, Zoom, if you're taking lessons on Zoom, Zoom will erase the conversation when you close the window. So make sure to copy and paste all of your fun new phrases, all of your fun new words into a separate Word document. Skype will save it for a while, but I also found out that Skype deletes things after a little bit of time. So definitely make sure you're saving all of these new fun phrases that you're learning right away. And finally, my favorite tip, relax and have fun with it. My very first lesson, I was so nervous and I don't even know what for. I totally get that it's a normal, very common thing for people to get nervous about taking lessons and speaking in their target language. But when I really thought about it, I was like, why am I so nervous? So I spent the entire lesson just breathing heavy, not paying attention to the conversation, worrying way too much about what she thought about me. And it all didn't matter in the end. She just was there to help me to have a conversation. And that's how you guys should approach it too, is have fun with it and relax. You can't learn when you're too stressed about stuff. Again, it's not a test. They're not making fun of you. All of these tutors are there to help you. So let it be fun. If this becomes a stressful thing, you're not gonna wanna continue to do it. So with all language learning, continue to love it. Continue to find ways to make it fun and enjoyable. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So definitely keep it that way. Continue experimenting with what works well for you. And I wish you all the best of luck on your journey with taking lessons, learning a language, and falling more in love with the process every single day. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you very soon in the next video. Bye!